Hi everyone, this is Michal from Airhead, and today we'll go through the topic of general navigation and more specifically VFR navigation, and we'll go through the latest 5 questions in the bank, and I'll give you some more in-depth explanations into the topics and the general gist of what to expect during the exam. So for question number 1, what is the factor to consider when planning a visual approach to an unfamiliar aerodrome just after sunrise? So this type of questions actually you'll see in both general navigation and meteorology. And the simple thing that you need to understand here is that if you are landing in foggy, hazy conditions with the sun in front of you, this will greatly reduce your slant visibility. And this is especially important if you are flying during sunrise or sunset, so when the sun is low or close to the horizon. So if you're flying just after sunrise and the runway has an easterly direction, that means your visual range and your visibility will be greatly reduced, far less into what is actually given just because of the direction of the sun. And this is something that you'll experience naturally, I'm sure, many times during your flying phase. But for the exams, remember that the position of the sun will be key when landing during hazy and foggy conditions for MET, and in general after sunrise for general navigation. For question number 2, when flying a day VFR flight at low level using checkpoints on a 1 to 500,000 map, the most suitable features are. And so I'll show you an example of a map. So this is a 1 to 500,000 map that I used to use throughout my navigation. And you can see that the blue lines are the borders between different TMAs. However, you have a lot of black dots right here and there. And these all will indicate tall features such as the towers or churches or cathedrals, something that is visible and protrudes high above the terrain. And this is what will give you the best indication of where you are or of your checkpoints when using such maps. So of course, if you have a prominent feature such as the towers, this will always be your best landmark. And these are actually shown on these 1 to 500,000 maps. And you can also cross-check this with your ED4, as you'll see a lot of masts, lit or unlit masts, as well as the churches there. Of course, for the checkpoints questions, always look for words prominent or highly visible, as these most often will be correct answers. Here, minor roads in a build-up area also may sound convincing. However, on these maps, as you can see again, you only have big highways. So you have the orange big highway. There are also yellow roads and the white roads, but these are very small, and these will only show you routes connecting small villages. So they're not really that helpful when you're using the roads in a built-up area. If you were to use a road connecting two villages, then yes, maybe. However, nothing more specific, and this will be pretty much it. For the other ones, of course, houses are not shown on these maps, and wooded areas are not great features at all, as it's very easy to get lost around them. When flying VFR by day, so for question number 3, in early summer over part of Central Europe, you have been busy looking at the scenery and not concentrating on where exactly you are. Which of the following features would be suitable for you to set your heading towards when unsure of your position? So for all of these questions, there are a couple things that you need to remember, and this will allow you to answer all the questions regarding good visual checkpoints. The basic rule of thumb is that coastlines, big bodies of water, railways, which EASA actually loves, and motorways are always great. The one thing that you need to look out for are farmlands. Any type of agriculture really is never a good idea to pick as a visual checkpoint, and you'll see why the moment you'll get into the air during your flight phase, because you'll be shocked at how many different farms there are around your town and how easily it is to confuse them with each other. So they will never be in the correct answer. So for this question, of course, motorway is always great, as I shown you just before on the map. They are very big and visible on your VFR maps. A railway will also be the one, like we mentioned. A river, any body of water, really. A lake as well is a great point. And a coastline are always fantastic. Coastlines, of course, are only in very particular spots around the world. However, if you're lucky to fly around seas, then this will be a fantastic visual point to follow in general. Of course, a junction of two small roads. This will depend how small the roads are. However, mainly and most usually it is hard to find them on the map. And remember, the general rule is that when you're flying, you're looking from your map to the ground. And then if you are not sure where you are, then you'll look to the ground and then look back at the map to try to fix your position. So for this question, one, of course, will be correct. The motorway, railway, river, and a coastline. 1, 3, 4, 5 will be the correct answers, and always stay away from the farms. For question number 4, an aircraft is flying a VFR flight at a low level over a snowy area with no visual checkpoints. What action by the pilot is recommended? So of course, if you are flying with no visual checkpoints, then you will be flying something that is called dead reckoning. And surprisingly, this is something that in the past has been extremely popular. Even a very, very famous aviator, Amelia Earhart, who almost circled the entire globe, but she also flown many other successful flights. She was flying mainly using dead reckoning, meaning she was only flying using her heading and the time, and also very limited an old type of NDBs. However, mainly she was following in the dead reckoning. So this is not something that is very new to aviation. And what you'll do if you do not have visual checkpoints, well, you will just fly dead reckoning. You will just trust your calculations and your pre-flight planning. You'll follow the chosen before heading, and then you'll fly there with a time and turn again at a time that you previously calculated. And this is absolutely safe if your calculations are correct. And if you were cross-checking your navlog with the previous part of the flight, then the flight can absolutely continue. However, sometimes you might get yourself lost, and in that case, always remember to follow 5C's rule or any other rule that will basically follow the same principles that your school will give you. The 5C's is circle, confess, climb, conserve, and communicate. So of course you will circle around, you will confess mainly to yourself that you are lost. You'll climb either above MSA or to get a better radio or navigate. Reception, you conserve your fuel, so fly with the best endurance speed. And lastly, always communicate with ATC and tell them what your situation is. And some questions will ask you about what's happening when you're lost. However, if you are not lost, then all you do is you'll just follow the dead reckoning principles to fly and navigate safely. So in this case, you'll proceed and turn at the next checkpoint based on time. And last question. For this question, you need to see the attached annex or ED4 from GSPRM, and a pilot is planning a VFR flight from an aerodrome to another aerodrome and departing at midday. What option describes the best means of checking the ground speed? So for your ground speed, you actually do not really need to look at the annex because in this type of questions, there is a rule of thumb which says always use whatever is perpendicular to your track. So we can see from the answers right away that we have a road A93 which crosses the track, and this will most likely be the correct answer, as of course it will be perpendicular. If there is a river that sometimes will be perpendicular to your track, or a bridge, then this most often than not will be the correct answer in these type of questions. However, we can take a look at the annex. So these will be the airports that we are flying, or this will be our route. And of course, you can see the highway that was said before right here. So it's crossing perpendicular. And for the other masts and airports, they are way too far away to be sufficient to tell us our ground speed is. For ground speed, we need a point of reference right in front of us to know when we're passing above it. And for this reason, anything that's perpendicular will always be the correct answer. And this will be it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I wish you all the best in your general navigation exams. And until then, I hope to see you again in our next video. So bye-bye and have a great day.